Hi everyone, welcome to Eman's Garden channel. Today we are going to discuss about replanting the orchids. In the previous video I showed you which kind of orchid you can choose when you are buying the orchid, and I showed you everything which I know about orchid medium. And in this video I started from one type of orchid medium, and when you buy this kind of orchid you need to replant immediately. And today I prepared my tools which I'm gonna use while replanting these both orchids. Here on the table I have my pots and I have alcohol, my potassium permanganate. If I have rot roots inside the pots, which we don't know which kind of roots we will have here, and that's why I prepared everything. And I prepared water, some water to mix this potassium permanganate with water. And I have here perlite, vermiculite. This is optional. If you have, you can add these two things. If you don't have, you can skip this part, and it's not something important. And here I have charcoal, homemade charcoal. I do it myself. I burn whatever I cut in my garden, I burn them and I save the charcoal and I use in my plants, especially in my orchids and Hoyas. Here I have some potting mix. Here perlite, potting soil, and some coco coir, which makes the aeration very well, and your plant soil will not be packed later on. That's why I add coco coir in the potting soil. And here I have my pine bark mulch. I have video about this, how I make my orchid medium. If you didn't watch that video, please go and watch that video. It's very beneficial. You save lots of money when you prepare your orchid medium yourself. And let's start. And I have my tools over there, and I have of course my water to water my orchids. Let's start from this orchid. I'm gonna take this orchid out from the pot. And we'll see what is inside. See, it was planted, this orchid was planted in cocoa chips. See, it's in cocoa chips, and I wanna plant this orchid in pine bark because I love that medium. It works great in my environment. You need to choose, you need to find out which medium works better for your environment. Here, see, two plants. This plant, I'm gonna plant it in separate pot. See, it's dying. One of the plant is decayed. I will show you. And here, see, my orchid roots. And this is sphagnum moss. They put just on top to decorate this pot. And I'm gonna remove all the coconut chips because I don't like this medium. It doesn't keep orchid roots healthy. I don't like, and that's why I wanna plant this orchid in pine bark. This sphagnum moss I wanna put in a side here, and also it's not completely in a coconut chips. I think in the first, when this orchid was planted, they planted this orchid in a sphagnum moss, and later when they wanted to replant this orchid in a bigger pot, they replanted with coconut chips, as you see here. And this part I'm not gonna remove because it is attached to this root. If I force it, I can damage the root, and this chips I will leave as is. And here I'm gonna slowly remove all the sphagnum moss slowly. I need to feel when I take the sphagnum moss, I need to feel the roots which are inside. If I feel that I'm touching roots, I need to be careful. I don't want to pull out the root. See, inside we have white healthy roots. It's still good. If you continue keeping your orchid in this kind of pot, you will you will rot the roots, because you don't know what's going on inside the pot. See, even I didn't water this orchid, it was still moist inside, but on top, see, it's dry. It was completely dry. I sprayed little bit water, not much, yesterday, but see, the bottom part is still moist, and this orchid doesn't need to be watered. And if you are new in growing orchids, you don't know, and you see that the top part, the sphagnum moss, is dry, and you think that you need to water, and when you water, it's extra, and the roots will stay soggy inside the pot, and that way they cannot breathe. When it's too much water, the oxygen cannot reach inside, and these roots cannot get oxygen. That way they rot. And that's why we need to know when to water our orchids. It's easy when you plant an orchid in a plastic clear pot. You can easily see if the roots are dry and they want to drink, or they are still moist. Now I will take all the, see, I will remove this old sphagnum moss, and I will show you. Here I don't have any bad roots. All the roots are healthy, but here the tip of the root is little bit rotted, and see, and I will show you how to remove this kind of root. First we need to wipe our scissors with alcohol, and then we can cut only the tip. How I cut? I usually don't cut from the healthy part. See, I cut where this healthy part is finished here, and this is dead part. Little bit I leave little bit dead part in the healthy part, and I'll cut like this. See, little bit dead part is left here, and this much dead root I have, but the rest of the orchid roots are healthy. And here I need to show you something. Here, see, this leaf is it has some bacterial infection, and what I do usually, if I have this kind of picture, I don't remove the whole leaf, because I need this leaf. It will work for me. How much leaves orchids have, so good for them. That's why I never remove orchid leaf if it's not damaged from the base. If it's rotted from the base, you need to remove. If it has damaged rot or something, some bacterial infection from the center or from the tip, you can just cut that part only. And I need to wipe my knife, and I will just cut this part, see, and the rest of the leaf will stay with my orchid. See, and this part will dry out, and it can live for, you know, for how much it can live, but I don't take out the whole leaf. These roots I'm not washing or I am not disinfecting because here in the USA we don't have any snails in the medium. I never saw any snails or insects in the roots. How many orchids I bought, I never saw this kind of things in the roots. That's why I'm showing you whatever I usually do. If the orchids they have insects or they have any disease, here in the USA they don't sell. I was in the nursery houses and they toss this kind of orchids if they have any disease or insects. Here on the shelf, you know, my orchids which I found from trash, and these orchids, all of them, they were thrown away to trash, and I found them from trash, and I am still taking care of them, and I'm still fighting with fungus gnats. And good that I am done with bacterial infection, I fought that, but still I am fighting with some mealybugs. I said fungus gnats. Sorry, I had mealybug problems, not fungus gnats. Fungus gnats also came with these orchids, but it was not a big deal. But mealybugs, it's very hard to fight with them. And let's start. I'm not disinfecting this with potassium permanganate, as I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, because I don't have root issues now here, and I'm not spraying any hydrogen peroxide. It's not necessary something. You don't need to think that we need all the time to spray something and wash these roots. I am showing you whatever is working for me. I have New Zealand sphagnum moss, and I prepared it last time when I was using for my orchids. And if you don't have new sphagnum moss, it's not something some trouble. You can use this old moss which you find from your orchid pots. It's okay. I did it many times and still my orchids are doing great with old moss, and these orchids are also planted in old moss, and as you see they're all healthy. And now I have a new sphagnum moss, that's why I'm using it. In the bottom part I will place some moss, and I'm placing my orchid here on top of the moss. And next step is my charcoal, which is, I call it candy for orchids. Orchid roots grow crazy when you add charcoal when you are planting your orchid. I put some charcoal in the bottom part of the pot. See? In here I have different pieces, small pieces, big pieces, it doesn't matter. All of them will work. You can easily make your charcoal yourself if you have backyard, or if you have a barbecue grill. You can fire a wood. And here I have my pine bark mulch. This is mulch which I bought from Lowe's. One bag you can buy, you can pay for one bag $1 if the bag is damaged. If it's not, you need to pay for this $3, and for $3 you have big bag of pine bark mulch. And what I do usually, I boil it and disinfect and disinfect. I prepare for to use for my orchids this bark, and I never use without disinfecting it. Sometimes I wash it and I put in an oven, sometimes I boil it. This way I prepare my pine bark mulch, and I don't have insect problem when I plant my orchids. And now I'm gonna add some sphagnum moss I don't like, I don't have time to water my orchids often, and that's why I need to, make my medium rich little bit. I add everything, and this way I keep my medium moist for 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks I water my orchids, and see, I added some sphagnum moss, and now I'm gonna add some perlite and vermiculite. See, and this perlite and vermiculite, they go down when you water, they find their place. And I will add some charcoal again. I make layers. It's easy. Growing orchids is very easy if you find language with them. If you know how to grow them, it's really easy plants to grow. Every 2 weeks you water them, and they make your eyes happy for 7 months when they bloom. The flowers which you buy, you know, from the store, these flowers cannot last long for 8 months. Maybe they will last for 3 or 4 months, but when they bloom in your house, in your care, they stay long, because they get used to the environment which you have in your house, and they get used to the food which you are feeding them with, and to everything, and of course love. And now I finished planting my orchids, see, and I will check if there is gap between the roots. There is no gap. I filled everything. I pressed a little bit, see. If we have gaps, we can take some stick, kebab stick, and put this, push this bark a little bit down, and that way we can make it firm. And now I will put this orchid, let me take my plate. This is my plate, and I place my orchid pot like this, and I water it. Let's put it there and start with the second orchid. Now let's take out this orchid, and we will see what kind of roots it has. And I see that this orchid also is planted in cocoa chips, see. And let's separate these both plants from each other. See, this plant I am gonna put here. Later on I will plant it. It's planted in a garden soil, potting soil. It's mostly close to the garden soil, not potting soil. It has some big pieces. Okay, and now let's put it here, this beautiful plant, and let's check my orchid roots. I have here sphagnum moss again, see, and this orchid also is sitting in a cocoa chips, and inside it has also sphagnum moss. And I need to remove. I don't see any bad roots. This orchid has excellent roots. See, all of them are healthy, and I need to remove all of this medium, and this part I can cut because it's dead. This root is dead. How we know? It's hollow, see, it's empty, and this, from this part it's dead, but the rest, which is close to the base, it's not dead, and I need to only remove this filament part, and the rest I can leave, and this part I can cut. And when I remove all the medium, I will come back. As you see, it has all good roots, and here I have only little bit dead root, and I can remove it. I need to cut because these roots, dead roots, they will die anyway in the medium, and if we remove now, it's better. See, from where I'm cutting, not from the healthy part, little bit from the dead part I'm cutting it, and that's it. I have very beautiful roots, and I will plant this orchid in the same way. If I have here some mostly dead roots and they smell bad, I need to use my potassium permanganate. I will mix it with water. I put just a little bit, and I will make light pink water, and I will wash these roots, and I will let it dry under the fan a little bit, and then after that I need to plant it. But now I don't need to use my potassium permanganate. If you don't have potassium permanganate, some people they use hydrogen peroxide. See, this root came out, and now I need to place my roots in the pot like so. And I put some charcoal, and the same way I'm gonna plant. When I plant it, when I finish it, I will come back. I'm gonna use the same method which I used for this orchid. Now I finished planting of both orchids. As you see, here are roots, and through this clear plastic pot I can observe these roots, and if they are happy I can see, or I can see if they're rotted, and I can easily see if they are thirsty or they still don't need to be watered. Now you see these roots are gray color, they are pale. When I water it, this all medium, it will change its color, and also these roots, and you will see. And whenever you need to water, you need to lift your pot and you feel. If it's heavy still, you don't water, and you see from the color. And here I have also vermiculite and perlite mixture. When they are still moist, they stick each other. When they're super dry, they separate from each other, and this way you can easily see if you need to water your orchid or not. And now I will take my water. I forgot that I have decorative pots, and I prepared my plates which I put here. These plates usually I use for my orchids, and all my orchids are sitting in these plates. And I forgot that I have decorative pots, and now I placed my orchid in a decorative pot. Usually how I water, I take my rainwater, this is warm water, and I just water it. I don't water from the top, I don't touch the leaves, I don't put water here. If I leave water here, it can decay my orchid stem, orchid leaves, they can die. If I accidentally put water here in the center, I need to wipe, and I have to put it under the fan to dry it. Now I water it carefully. I'm not touching the leaves. See? This is first watering. After planting, I usually water my orchids. Some people, they don't water. And I tried once. I wanted to see if I don't water what will happen. I didn't see good picture. When I planted, after 3 days I checked, and I saw that mold was growing in the pot, and I didn't like it, and I had root issues. That's why I started watering right after I plant my orchid. Since that time I water every time when I plant my orchid. I water it right after. And now I will show you the roots and the medium. See, now the pot is heavy. See, the first water is dark like this because I put too much charcoal, and charcoal small pieces, it can turn your water black like this, but it's not something that you need to scare. It's very good for orchid roots, they love it. And I will show you the roots. See, roots are still gray. When I leave it a little bit in the water, they will turn green. See, and even the perlite and vermiculite are not wet still. See, and I'm leaving a little bit of, I messed it here. It's okay, I will wipe it. I put too much water, I see. This leftover sphagnum moss and this cocoa chips and whatever is old, which I removed from the old pots, I'm not gonna throw away because I'm gonna use this for other plants. Other plants love it. And I use this moss and everything for my hibiscus, for my other plants, and I will make separate video about that. But for now you need to know that these things we use, we reuse. Our gardeners never waste anything. Let me clean this table and I will explain what is the next step. Now I drain the water, as you see. I wrote the name. I don't know the name of this Phalaenopsis orchid, and that's why I wrote white pink dots, and here I put date when I planted this orchid, and I'm gonna place it here and put in a decorative pot like so. And here I know this orchid's name, they call it Magic Art. I have different colors from this one is white, and that's why I put name white, and I put date here also to know which kind of orchid I have. And I am placing it in a decorative pot. And here I need to draw your attention to this plant. This plant also came, this one also came with my orchids. I showed you that orchid, it was yellow orchid, and it was exactly in this kind of pot, and it had this flower in it, and I replanted it in a separate pot, in this small pot here. See, in this pot I replanted it, and now I have 16-inch tall of this plant. It came with my orchids last year, which is 7-8 months ago. In 7-8 months it grew this tall, this high, and see, it's 16 inches now. And now I'm gonna plant this peperomia, variegata they call it. I am gonna plant it. See, one is healthy and the other one is decayed, and I'm gonna cut this part and I replant these both plants separately in separate pots. And now I'm gonna finish my video. Thank you for watching, and also I need to tell you thanks for commenting, for your kind comments, that you like my videos. Sometimes I have time to reply your questions, sometimes I really don't have time because I have small baby and I study and I teach. That's why it's a little bit hard to answer all your questions, but the most important questions I try to answer. That's why you need to understand me. And some of you don't believe that I grow these orchids myself. Some people say that I bought them and I'm showing orchids from the store. Whatever I buy, I tell you that I bought. It didn't bloom in my house. Whatever blooms in my house, I tell you. There is no need to lie to somebody. I am sharing just my experience. I hope that my whatever I am showing you, it is helping you guys. I am not forcing anybody to do whatever I am doing. I am just giving you idea, and this way you can learn and you can make your own way of growing plants. Thank you for watching anyway, and please subscribe my channel if you are new in this channel, and if you like this video, please put thumbs up, and if you have any questions, please write comments. I will somehow answer your questions. Bye.